This video is sponsored by Squarespace. You can make your own beautiful website or online store with this all-in-one platform. When I first started my art journey, I mostly drew people because I was very inspired by anime at the time, my younger, 12-year-old self, and I wanted to design characters and give them hairstyles and outfits. I found that really fun. But as I got older, I realized how much I love drawing animals or wish I could draw them more, but I wasn't very good at drawing them and I hadn't really focused on their anatomy at all. At this time, I got really determined to learn how to draw them better, and I started to practice drawing them all the time. My human anatomy knowledge was higher than my animal anatomy, and I found it difficult to draw animals. I wasn't really used to drawing them, especially animal faces. For some reason, drawing an animal face is just so much harder than a human face if you're someone who draws a lot of people and not a lot of animals. And I still kind of struggle with certain animal faces, especially cats, dogs, other mammals. Those are the ones that I struggled with the most. The eye placement was especially difficult because I only really knew how to draw human faces. I was in IKEA one day and I picked up a blank journal, one of those cheap paper ones with a black cover, like a paper cover, and super thin pages. And I decided that would be my messy sketchbook for animal studies, and I let the art in it be as messy or as nice as I wanted it to be. And I just filled pages and pages of animal studies. It ended up being just pencil and really quick studies, very messy, just as a tool for learning how to draw them. And it was purely for learning and trial and error, and I just stubbornly drew animals over and over. I would scroll through Pinterest and try to recreate all sorts of different animals. I think I drew horses, I drew I don't know what else, I'll have to look in it again. I don't really know where this journal is, but I'd highly recommend getting yourself a book like that you don't care about, very cheap paper, very cheap cost of the overall sketchbook, and use that to practice drawing what you want to learn how to draw. And Pinterest is a great way to quickly find tons of references based on what you just looked at. So whatever photo you're currently looking at, the image, you can scroll further and you can see related images, and you can kind of go down interesting rabbit holes of different pictures to try to draw. And that's how I discover a lot of weird animals, honestly, is through Pinterest. But over the next few months and years of doing this, well, it's not like I drew every single day all the time, but I did practice animals a lot for a while. For this period of time, I'm I am determined to learn how to draw animals. I don't know how to draw them very well. I really like them. I want to draw them more. And over the next few months and years, I noticed it got easier and easier to draw animals, and I still notice it getting easier to this day. And I notice improvements in myself when I look back at old drawings and sketchbooks, and I'm wow, I didn't realize, back then when I drew that, I was really happy with it. I really liked the way that looked. But now I can actually see the flaws, and I can compare that with my current art and notice how much I've improved. And it's pretty cool to see even being satisfied with my art for the last few years, I can still see improvements. So it's cool to know that I'm always getting better and better by my own standards. So basically it was pure stubbornness and will to learn how to draw animals that made me be able to draw them. And I was just so determined to learn how to draw them. So if there's anything you want to learn how to draw, just be determined, don't give up. It takes hours of practice, but it's kind of fun to see yourself slowly get better and better. If I struggled with a certain animal, some days I would dedicate some time to trying a certain pose over and over to get it right. I'd look at the skeletons of animals. This leads to many, many bad drawings, but also lots of progress and eventually some decent drawings. This kind of ties into me wanting to have more fun with my art and trying to embrace what my calling was when it came to the subject matter I wanted to draw. I had to allow myself to draw less people, not because I didn't enjoy drawing people, but because I really just wanted to draw animals all the time. But I felt if I drew more animals than people, then I was taking the easy way out because it was more fun. And for some reason, I felt drawing shouldn't be too fun. There should be, because then it kind of feels you're not really working hard if it's fun, which is not a good way to think. But I'm trying to unpack that sort of in this video. I discovered that drawing scenery and bushes and trees and nature and animals was what I truly wanted to draw, honestly. And I felt guilty for not drawing people as much because for some reason I thought drawing people was the way to prove you're a good artist, because I see them as a little more difficult than animals in the long run, just because we see people all the time and we know our own anatomy, so we know when something looks off more easily. Like, it's easier to scrutinize a human anatomy drawing than an animal one, because not everyone knows what all animals look like. We're just not as familiar with them, I think. Adding on to that, I also leaned more into drawing organic versus inorganic shapes, and if you don't know what that means, it means I drew more like curvy objects with more of like a natural shape, so like nature curves, textures, leaves, grass, for a forest scene instead of like a city, if that makes sense, instead of like inorganic things, which would be like interiors, buildings, perspective, hard geometry, like shapes, like things that take a little bit more finesse technically, I think. It's more like mathematical, I guess, and like organic things are more like focused on like the overlapping of the textures, and like, I don't know, it kind of takes different skills to draw each successfully, I think, because organic stuff still has perspective. Like, if you're drawing a scene, it's going to have perspective regardless, but it's easier to sort of like fake certain parts of it with like leaves than like a building that is a box, because like you can tell if that's off. So when I realized I wanted to draw more stuff like that, I just felt like this weird guilt, because I'm like, it just feels easier to do that, and that feels like I shouldn't do it if it's easier, because I need to like prove I can draw the difficult things. But I don't think this is like the proper mentality to have about art. And I've talked about this a lot recently, and I'm trying to like not worry about that. And I don't think I worry about it that much. I can draw that stuff if I really want to, like the perspective, geometry, like squared objects. But it just doesn't bring me joy as much as nature stuff. And I think in the long run, drawing what actually brings you joy will make you draw more and improve more and get further in your art journey than if you are unhappy constantly while drawing. That's kind of my personal philosophy at the moment. I still struggle with drawing what I want versus drawing what I think I should be drawing. I think it's okay to have both of these things on your mind, because it's always good to push yourself outside your comfort zone to grow as an artist. I should say pushing yourself isn't just to prove that you can draw more difficult things, it's to try to find things that you will be able to adopt into your art to make it that much more unique to you, and to discover new things that you like drawing. It's not to like always be stuck drawing stuff that's really hard. It's to step out of your comfort zone, try some new things, and they might become the things that you really like to draw. So it sort of expands your comfort zone, which is just a win-win scenario. Now for a break to thank this video's sponsor, which is Squarespace. As you probably know, Squarespace is an online platform where you can build your own website. It can be for your business, for your portfolio, it can be for whatever you need it to be. You can get a lot of ideas for what you want your website to look like when browsing through all of their templates, and you can even choose one as a starting point, and then you can start modifying things about it to make it look how you envision. It's also really useful to link all of your social media to your website so that people know where to find you. And Squarespace makes this super easy, because when you add your social media links, they put the corresponding icon, and you can change how the icon looks, and it makes it very easy for people to find you. I also love their portfolios and galleries feature. It's essential for me as an artist to be able to have my portfolio on my website, and they make it really easy to upload all of your images, drag and drop them, and they display them all beside each other in a clean grid so that people can see all of your work. If this sounds interesting to you, go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/JelArts, and you can get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I think I need to get over the thought that art needs to be hard for it to be good. It's a weird mentality that I think I might have adopted in art school, or just like, I don't really know where this came from. It's like you want people to look at your profession as like difficult, therefore it's like worthwhile, or like it's a real job because it's not always sunshine and rainbows. And like, even if you're having fun drawing, it's still not always sunshine and rainbows, because like drawing constantly for a living is pretty tiring. And there is some truth to doing difficult tasks for a high reward, like deciding to draw a really complex library piece with perspective and books and geometry everywhere and details, but it turns out gorgeous and you're glad that you drew that. But there's also so much value in picking up a pencil and drawing what sparks joy and what comes naturally that day. Sometimes you make your best work that way. And I think having a balance of these two things is good, but you don't have to force it either. Like, just because you don't feel like your art is difficult enough doesn't mean you're a bad artist or you're not like doing good enough art. It's this weird mentality I have, and I don't know if anyone else is the same as me. I'm sure they are. I'm sure there are people who think this way too, and who are trying to not think this way, so let me know if you're one of them. But basically, you should be able to draw the things you like to draw and introduce new, more challenging things when you have the energy and the desire to expand your horizons, and then your comfort zone art becomes even broader. There's also this desire for being original and unique that I think all artists strive for, and I think a lot of artists worry about being like totally new and different from other stuff they've seen. I think this is why the topic of finding your art style can be so popular, especially around younger artists or beginner artists. And I made a lot of videos about finding your art style in the past, and I think I would change a lot of the things I said now. But it kind of reflects my thoughts on it back then, and my thoughts now are different. But eventually, I had to not worry so much if all my ideas were 100% never been done before. It's just not possible to do this, and I think that can like be a roadblock too, with worrying that everything you do is like so original and different. You have to accept the fact that some of your ideas, or most of them, will have been thought of by someone else, and this is okay. You just have to find your way of doing things. Sometimes when I'm beginning a drawing, I will struggle choosing a thumbnail because I worry that it's too simple, or the thumbnail came to me too easily, or I'm sure that it's been done many times before and I can't think of something that I feel like is totally fresh and original. But then I try to think, okay, if someone's done this before, what can I do to make this my way of depicting things? Because I think every artist sort of sees the world a bit differently and has a different hand, a different mind. They draw things differently. They have different mark making techniques. I think every artist could draw one thing completely differently. Like if every artist drew a frog, I think every single frog would look different. So maybe you add texture like no one else does, or your particular mark making is unique to you and puts a new spin on what you're drawing. Maybe your style is super original and people want to see any subject matter depicted the way that you draw things. So like they wouldn't care what you drew because it's in your style and it just like looks cool to see you render certain things. So I kind of wanted to talk about all these mental barriers that I have with my art sometimes and how I sort of try to get around them. Like when I stopped drawing people as much and started drawing more animals, when I let myself draw what I wanted to draw rather than stuff I thought would be more difficult and like would like prove my skills as an artist for whatever reason. And then also struggling with being original and thinking that your art has been done before and sort of overcoming that by saying, okay, maybe this idea has been done before, but I can depict this in a unique way that no one else can. You just have to do things your way. I hope this video was interesting, hearing how I sort of get over these mental barriers and have more fun with art, and also my journey with discovering my love for drawing animals and how I got better at that. I just really wanted to speak on this because the more I thought about it, the more I had to say about it. And if you think any similar things when it comes to your own art journey or your own like personal art philosophy, let me know in the comments. It's always fun to discuss these things with you guys. I also drew a bunch of animals during this video, so I hope you enjoyed seeing them. The foxes were a lot of fun. I just had so much fun doing the watercolor and like adding details and like the fur textures, and I think a lot of the poses are pretty cute too. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed hearing all my thoughts. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.